I think staff expect more as well, like it's a generational thing where staff, it was sort of like when I started in finance, when I was a stockbroker, Jesus Christ, like it was like, yeah, when I started as a trainee, I swear this is true, okay? I used to leave my house in Southampton at about 4:30 a.m. to get to my desk at 7 a.m. to get my boss his breakfast, to then start my work at 7:30 in the morning. And I wouldn't finish till sort of 7 or 8 at night and be home at like 10 or 11, and then I'd do it all again. And that's not even the worst bit, okay? Because I didn't have a chair to sit on, apart from at lunchtime. So I was made to stand the whole day, and I didn't have dialers, and I didn't have like I had a spreadsheet with telephone numbers and a phone. And my boss was like, get on the phone, shut up, and if you don't like it, it's just sod off essentially. So there's 100 people behind you that will do your job.
Welcome back to the Perform Well podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better. Welcome back to another episode of Perform Well podcast. And today we have Chris Schutrups, and he is a serial entrepreneur in the Southampton area in the UK, killing it, by the way. And we found someone that's taller than me as well. Chris, how are we doing, man?
Really good. The highlight of my day was knowing that I was taller than you, to be fair. All the nice stuff you said didn't matter, so it's good.
Great, man. Dan, we lost you there, mate. Are you on mute?
He's done the old Zoom mute thing, hasn't he?
I think so. That's a rare one. Oh, do you know what? I hope it works, mate, because I'm not doing that intro again. Can't hear you, Dan. Anyone listening on the podcast right now, not watching it on YouTube, Dan is currently trying to talk and we can't actually hear him at all.
Can you hear me now?
There he is.
There we go.
Gosh.
No idea what happened there. I think my mic just completely cut out. I looked at it because it glows nice and colourful, and I looked down and went, I see nothing. It's just darkness.
That's nice, actually, doesn't it? That's a good line.
Yeah, thanks.
Funky, mate. YouTube creator.
Yeah, it's all that YouTube.
One of those DJs, that are on TikTok.
Oh, yeah, like with their little headphones, the little like glow up.
In LA or something.
Yeah.
That's what that looks really cool.
Perfect. Right, so we're going to delve into your life, Chris, to be honest. We want to know a lot more about yourself and how wellness has helped you to achieve the success you have. And it's one of our big platforms that we like to talk about this area because a lot of people that come onto the podcast are genuinely interested on people who are successful. And one of the big mantras me and Nick always have is you learn from people who are in positions that you'd like to be in. So, Chris, take it away. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, what got you invested into business, and how did you also use kind of training, dieting, that kind of side of things to then skyrocket your success?
So I started my career in finance. I worked for HSBC. And I quickly moved into being a stockbroker in the city. And I guess that's when my love of understanding businesses came from, looking at how business was valued on the stock market, where there was value, trying to spot where opportunities would come from. And so, I came back after working as a stockbroker. I worked as a bank manager for West Broadband Scotland Group, and I continued to meet business owners, business people. At this point, I'm still only 19, 20, and I started my first proper business at 21, which is a business called The Mortgage Hut, which I still work in and run today. And that's a business that I started from a bedroom. It was me and my dog, is sort of the story that goes, I guess. Today it's a team of over 50 people. We deal with 120 customers a day. It's valued in multi-million pound business. We complete hundreds and hundreds of mortgages every month, helping people either get into their dream property or to get a better deal on their existing mortgage. So that's my primary core business. I also own businesses across hospitality. A restaurant called Figurati in Southampton, which won Best Restaurant at the British Restaurant Awards last year. I own a bar. I did own a lot of pubs. I think the great thing about owning businesses as well is being able to buy and sell them, and if you can create a value in an asset, then that's great as well. And, I think sometimes we get a bit fixated on keeping the same businesses forever, and actually, there's so that you also need to stand as a leader and a business owner, that you're there for part of the journey, normally not all of the journey. And that's something that if we look at tech entrepreneurs who start businesses, some of them go the whole way, some of them step off the train out of choice, some of them are encouraged off of the train, should we say, and so as you go through that journey as well, it's about understanding what you do and when you get off. So so at the peak I was leading teams or had managers that led teams of about 400 people. I also had an employed role, which came about by chance in the Middle East. So I was leading the largest mortgage business in the Middle East, owned by the equivalent of Rightmove of the Middle East. So that was a great business, tech business, fast moving, lots of very skilled tech workers, and it was a very, very interesting business there, and I was lucky to be part of that as well. So it's been an exciting journey, and if I'm honest, I still think I'm only 5-10% of the way on that journey, is the truth. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Wow. Blown away, mate. That was quite an intro. Sounded a little quiet there, Chris. Is there any chance that you can speak closer to the mic?
I'm a bit closer, yeah. Let's do it. There we go.
I did hear you though. Everyone did hear you.
Good.
But mate, what a wild start. I mean, I know we discussed this before about, obviously, before you said you were overweight and you were struggling with health issues, right?
Yeah.
And
so I had type 2 diabetes. So I, from a very young age, I guess I was overweight. So I'm 6'7", as you say, but at my peak I was 152 kg, 24ish stone, I think that is. So as a stockbroker, I drank a lot, I partied a lot, I ate a lot. My job still today is essentially a lot of going around and eating and drinking and talking, and and I think we're really lucky where we are, and when we were born, that actually there's a lot more awareness around fitness and about well-being, and linking exercise to being able to cope with pressures, and because if we take a bigger, there's obviously people who suffer from depression and take medication, but we've been self-medicating for hundreds if not thousands of years, to deal with pressure and stress. And actually the best way of dealing with that, and I've been lucky enough to have people around me to help me understand this, is that the best way of dealing with that is to be able to have a healthy diet, a balanced life. For me, the number one thing is actually sleep. Is really, really important to me. That I wear a Whoop and an Aura, I'm overtracked. Somewhere my data's worth something. Here we go. There
Chris,
go.
So with that in mind, then, what was your sleep score last night?
Oh, that's a great question. Here you go. I got it in front of me. I haven't looked yet. I think it's going to be good though. If you'd asked me, I was with one of my friends at the weekend at York Races. We were a guest of ITV, and if you had asked me on Sunday morning, it would have been, it would not have been a good situation to be in, for sure. But my sleep score, I think, was very. I'm trying to find it. It was very, very good.
Everyone listening, this is a top-level entrepreneur. This is the sleep schedule. Here we go.
Okay, so 92% was my sleep.
Oh my
God!
Today. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm actually here. You go. And the day before, 100% the day before. Okay. And
and then
it wasn't okay. But sleep is my number one thing. Being able to function well and make good decisions and stick to a good schedule. I'm lucky. My essentially how I read a great book by a guy called Dan. It's called How to Buy Back Your Time, how to buy. I'll tell you your time. Dan Morell, I think his name was. I can't remember, but it was really. It was. I can't remember his name. It was a book that basically said, value your time. If you're £1,000 a day type of person, don't do £100 a day type of jobs, and so I'm lucky that I have 3 full-time assistants who sit and do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, and they're able to make a lot of the decisions, and they plan everything for me, whether it be my personal life. If I'm traveling, they know what seats I like on the plane. They'll check me in. They know everything, So, and that makes life a lot easier, and you're able to be a lot more efficient and achieve a lot more each day if you have that. So I don't actually do emails. I don't even do emails anymore. So I was getting 3,500 emails before a day. And so now one of those assistants just does the emails for me, and then half an hour a day I just go through and I'll review them, and if I need to make any decisions, I will.
That's wild. I mean, look, at the moment, obviously you're killing it. You're doing really well, and you've got a lot of time where you can potentially sleep well, eat better, train, look after your health. But on the rise up in your journey to being where you are now, you had to sacrifice your health to a degree to make it, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. We're not trained in school about this, or I wasn't. You don't understand this stuff. And so, and I was an emotional eater. I didn't come from money. I came from a fairly modest background. We came from a council house. My dad was a train guard. He worked exceptionally hard. But, we didn't have loads of money. We didn't have loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I emotionally, I associated success to, eating and drinking, and I went from not having a lot of money to being a stockbroker that was paid excessive amounts of money. And what do you do when you're a 17, 18-year-old guy who's earning a lot more than anyone will ever earn? Well, you go to the club and you buy loads of bottles, and you go and eat loads of food, and you just act like an idiot, basically. And that's and that's how a lot of us actually portray wealth and success as well now. I think it's hard to understand how this stuff will change unless you really understand how your mind works, and and understand sort of how volatile. I think about my moods and stuff. If I don't sleep well, or if I've been on a mad drinking thing in London at an event, and then you're going to wake up feeling like rubbish and feeling a bit negged out. Even I think I'm one of the most positive people. I don't really acknowledge negativity, which I think can be a gift and a curse, depending on if it's me, it's a gift. If it's people around me, it's probably a curse sometimes. But but even I will wake up after going to bed at 5 a.m. and getting up at 8 to get the train back, and think, God, I don't want to do this. Is the truth.
Well, the question I had, the reason why I asked you that is because here's a question that I've seen a lot of people that come onto the podcast that we talk to about it, and a lot of entrepreneurs are sacrificing their health to build wealth in the first place, and then they get to a point where they're successful, and then they need to try and buy that health back. Now, could you go back to 18, 19, 20 and adopt the healthy habits that you have now and still be successful with that job?
Yes, I think so. Because actually, as you both know, more than anyone, we can make time for anything. Everyone's got time to do 2 hours of Netflix, but they don't have enough time to do an hour of, that is the truth. And it's a little bit like running a business. The harder I work, the luckier I get generally in life, in anything, and that could be transferred to fitness for sure. I'm sure. I'm not an expert of fitness. I'm on a journey for sure. I'm not professing to sit here and know anything. What I do know is 10 years ago, I was eating loads of rubbish. I wasn't sleeping a lot. I was running around, and actually, now the life that I lead, I can set my own. I think it is harder if you're in an employed role and you have to be in at work at your desk at 8, and you can't do but you get lunch breaks, you get time after work, you get I guess what I have learned along the journey is just it's better to do something than nothing, and sort of build on that. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs, I have a really bad character trait where I don't like doing stuff that I know I'm not going to be good at. I almost don't try to do it, because if I can't be the best, if I can't win at it, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to look like the idiot, or even if it's to me myself. And actually, sometimes you have to get over that little bit of ego and go, you know what, I may as well just go. We've had conversations before where I've been in David Lloyd, and I was in the weight section when I just started going to the gym, and there were teenage girls next to me who were, their weights was, and I'm a 6'7" hairy man, and I was like, this is a bit awkward for me. But once you get rid of the ego and realise everyone's on a journey, everyone's doing it, everyone's trying to do something, then then you can put that to one side and start planning forward, I guess.
It is. It's
But
really important to take that into consideration as well, Chris. Just want to jump in and interject a point there. You said a really key point about kind of again, we say it all the time, like comparison is the thief of joy. As soon as you start kind of associating yourself with these levels that you see that are set through social media, YouTube, whatever, it takes away the whole enjoyment and the building element of it.
100%. And, it's a little bit like building a business, you have to just every week, I try and in the businesses, even now, try and put one really good system or process in that continues to drive the business forward. And that's how, when I speak to people who are on an earlier journey than me in business, and they go, oh my God, that's amazing what you build, and how did you do it? And, I did it because I had time, and time is what I had, and patience. And, I would love to achieve everything today, but you can't. And it's just about being consistent, I guess. The secret to business is trying to be as consistent as possible, because that's what's going to give you results. And I think that you will both nod and say, oh, that sounds like what our job is in doing fitness, is being consistent at it and seeing the result. Well, that's business. There's no, generally speaking, I've owned lots of different types of businesses. I've invested in a lot of different types of businesses. Business is actually all the same. You have a product or a service, and you sell it for more than it costs you, basically, long story short. Okay. And you need good marketing to feed the top end of that funnel, and you need a good team or product in there as well. But business is all the same, and it's just about being consistent in what you do to be successful, I guess. And I'm sure that's what you will both say when it comes to fitness and well-being.
100%. I mean, as a trainer, we're in a very unique spot because we are self-employed, so we run a business, but we also help people with their fitness. So we're kind of crossing the line between the two, which is kind of why we did this Performing Well podcast, because we want to help business owners and people that are ambitious actually get the goals they want. And we believe that, focusing on your health, on your performance, is the way to do that. You can't obviously perform a business when you're in a hospital bed struggling for health. You need to be in a good place. Tony Robbins, I'm sure you know Tony Robbins.
Not personally, I wish I did, but I do know.
Don't we all?
I mean, he's one key person that believes in, cold plunges, breathing exercises, maintaining a nutrient-rich diet to improve his energy levels so he can perform. We've got Tim Ferriss, another entrepreneur, killing it. Someone that's probably a little bit more relatable to what you're doing in terms of saving time, performing the best you can, minimum effective dose. And he created a whole book on wellness because he realized it's the way to perform as an entrepreneur. We've got Richard Branson. We've got Jeff Weiner, Ariana Huffington. I don't even know who she is, to be fair. So many entrepreneurs killing it by focusing on their wellness. And I think we're trying to get people to realize that wellness is the key to making everything else in your life easier.
Yeah. And I think they have they'll have something in common, which is they all have a lot of money. And we all start at school where we're not trained on this and we don't understand it. And unless you've done sports sciences or some type of PE, which teaches you the very basics, none of us know this stuff. And I guess the thing that we're lucky about now is podcasts like yours enables people to get this information, digest it, understand it and they're sort of beating that race in time, because all of these people, if you went to Richard Branson, if you went to Tony Robbins, if you went to all of them, I guess they would say when they were at that first hurdle of building their first business and trying to become, I guess, financially free eventually, whether all time free, that they would have, if they had known it, they would have applied it a lot earlier. And so I think that's where we're lucky that we have these podcasts, but they all have something in common, which is they have money, and that money will drive people like yourselves around them who can educate them and help them, and so it's interesting. And I think we're lucky that we have a lot of information now to be able to consume and digest and try and understand it.
I mean, it's really interesting as well, because we had a little while back, we went and did one of our first in-person seminars, and we did it at a place called Hammerson PLC, which was absolutely amazing. And we went and did a talk with those guys, and we gave them some statistics we've got today. So a study in the American Journal of Health Promotion found that companies' wellness programs in place saw a 25% reduction in employee turnover, contributing to more stable and sustained business growth. Because one of the biggest issues that people find within business and with employees, and you might have found this with yourself even, that if you have a lot of turnover of staff, most of the time it comes down to burnout. Like, a lot of those staff are being burnt out and they can't keep up with the consistency of work and results that's desired from the company. which is where things then just don't align, it falls apart, X, Y, Z. And I find that really interesting because there's actually, I read a study a little while back after we did our seminar, only 10% of businesses in the UK have a wellbeing program in place, which when you hear about it, a lot of people and practices will turn around and say, oh, we do this for wellbeing, oh, we do this for wellbeing. But actually, in terms of a program to keep nurturing people throughout the process, it's really interesting that we're trying to build this kind of nice wellbeing society. And I think at the minute it's still very small, but the recognition will come as data comes in to say, look, our staff are less stressed. Oh my God, we've earned like another 10% revenue this month because our staff are less stressed. That kind of stuff coming through. And I find these kind of statistics absolutely like phenomenal for that.
As well, it's a generational thing where staff, it was sort of like when I started in finance, when I was a stockbroker, Jesus Christ, like it was like, when I started as a trainee, I swear this is true, okay? I used to leave my house in Southampton at about 4:30 a.m. to get to my desk at 7 a.m. to get my boss his breakfast, to then start my work at 7:30 in the morning. And I wouldn't finish till sort of 7 or 8 at night and be home at like 10 or 11, and then I'd do it all again. And that's not even the worst bit, okay? Because I didn't have a chair to sit on, apart from at lunchtime. So I was made to stand the whole day, and I didn't have dialers, and I didn't have like I had a spreadsheet with telephone numbers and a phone. And my boss was like, get on the phone, shut up, and if you don't like it, sod off, essentially. So there's 100 people behind you that will do your job.
That sounds like Wolf of Wall Street, literally.
It does.
It was brutal. It's a little bit like The Pursuit for Happiness. It was, it was definitely, people say, oh, like, I think a job like that was really great for me because when I did that for, when I was a trainee for about a year, it is soul destroying, honestly. Like it is a very challenging job to get yourself up when you've got home at 11 and being taught, and there's a certain way of talking to each other in that world. It was a bit of an eye opener if you were female or have any sort of underrepresented group of society. It was an interesting place to be in itself. But I think times have changed and people expect more, and employers have a certain responsibility. We've just moved everyone. For a long time we've run all of the mortgage business essentially across WhatsApp, not customer data wise, but communication and stuff. And and I got to a point where I said, this just doesn't work because people aren't switching off. And it wasn't through, we're not saying, oh, you have to work, but people are like messaging at like 8 o'clock. And so we've just moved everyone across to Slack so that we can silence notifications, turn it off so they can't, because actually, it's not just about as an employee expecting well-being, and as an employer, it's important to understand that you should be almost forcing breaks and well-being and rest on your members of staff, because you get the best performance out of people when they're well rested. We go back to my Whoop conversation earlier. No point in having the boss sat there telling you how great his life is with his Whoop and he had a great night's sleep last night when your staff are up at 6 o'clock stressing about how they're going to hit their sales target. It just isn't the way that the world should work. Because it's the companies, I think, are slowly. It's a little bit like ESG in itself, about environment and social stuff. A lot of companies create these policies and don't really, they create it, it's really about creating the policies, but also really embedding them and driving them and trying to create those behaviours. And especially Hammerson, I know very well, they're obviously one of the UK's largest shopping centre operators. They, the big employers like that, I can imagine it's quite a challenge because, you have to start from the top down and you have to get all the managers all the way down the food chain to agree to doing it. And, it was, I could be called a hypocrite in that when I ran my teams in Dubai, we were a typical tech business and we had Xboxes and football tables. And I used to say to the managers that led the teams, I was like, God help you if I walk into the office and I see my teams playing Xbox at 3 p.m. I was like, seriously, you don't want to see me if this happens, and so, but there is a right balance as well of managing teams, because you do have to, I guess, my teams were the fastest moving across the group, and that was because, as a leader, you have to be, and we talked about being able to have a vision on what you might look like in personal training, where you're going to be, what you're going to do. It's a little bit like that when you run a business. Your job is to be the chief storyteller. Let people understand where this business is going to be, what we're going to do, why we're doing it, what's the purpose. And so, it's bringing all this stuff that you're talking about, the well-being, but the vision, the collaboration, the communication all together to really have the biggest success, I think.
Yeah. Do you know who we had on the podcast like a little while ago? Jamie and Mike from Zappie.
Who are both absolutely fabulous guys.
Yeah.
Don't go on a night out with Mike Connolly.
I've been down and drank with him. That man.
Jesus. I have been in some places where I've regretted my life choices with Mike Connolly. and this was about 10 years ago, but yeah. So.
That's funny. I mean, the reason I bring it up is because Zappie, from the outside, looks like a great company to work for. Now, for those that don't know, my girlfriend Emma has just started working for Zappie. She now works for them, so she had a harbour.
50 staff I just saw on LinkedIn today. They're in 1 year, 10 months, they've scaled from 0 to 50 staff, which is absolutely incredible. What an achievement!
That's nuts, isn't it? And she got a hard-bar breakfast this morning, paid for them. Yeah. She's going on all these like Olympic games in the office. I'm like, what a company you work for, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
They've nailed it.
But you get people, especially in sales environments. If you can create a really great, and that's culture, isn't it? A HR person would say it's about creating that company culture. And Zappie, that you have the vision, you see, and I can only tell you from the outside what I see, and I know Mike and Jamie obviously, but they create this vision, they create this where they want to be, what their aspirations are, they create the culture, they reward the staff, they make them feel valued, they share in their successes in a lot of ways, and so people are willing to work hard when you're all part of something and there's an upside for everyone. So what they've done, we can talk about, and it looks very easy, but it's very difficult, and they've done a very good job at that for sure.
They were saying when we first met them, and I mean, I've known Mike because I actually lived just above him when he lived on Commercial Road. I think he's moved now. But I lived above him, and I met him during COVID because they were like, oh my God, there's new people moving in. Me and my partner at the time went down and had some drinks. And I spoke to him about the businesses he worked for because Zappie is a very, it's a new thing. But beforehand, he was going through the grind of working for other people. He was learning the ins and outs of the business. And much like we can compare this to kind of performance and well-being, because you have to learn the ins and outs of yourself to be able to actually succeed and see that progress over time. If you don't know how your own body works, which is why coaches like myself and Nick come in useful, we can see that kind of inner workings and what's going to work for you. And a lot of the time, you're just hitting walls. But then it's kind of going around that wall and learning. And I think Mike and Jamie, as they say, like, they're fantastic in what they do and the environment they've created for themselves. I think it's just splendid when you can see that projected growth for them. And I think they're going to keep going. Obviously, they're doing so well. And I mean, Jamie's younger than myself. I'm only 25 and Jamie's 24. Am I right in saying?
Yeah.
Like, astounding stuff, isn't it? It's absolutely astounding.
I remember when I used to be the young entrepreneur. Now I'm like getting the OG. Like, so,
you're the wise man now. The wise old man.
The wise sage, yeah, I know, Jesus.
I mean, you're only 1 year older than me, Chris.
Yeah, 34. I know people think. I was in a bar the other day. I said to someone, "I'm like, oh, how old do you think I am?" She was like, 52. I'm like, brilliant.
Nice.
Savage. It's gone well for me. Someone guessed the other day. I was at Victorious, and a girl said, "Oh," I said, "How old do you think I am?" She was like, 37, and I'm like, I'll take, like, that is so close to my age. Like, I'm happy.
Well, from 54, mate, I would take that and run with it.
I said 54, by the way, and you've already added 2 years on to me now. So.
My bad.
I was going to say 28.
Yeah, thank you.
Should have gone the other way, shouldn't I?
If anyone listening to the podcast and can't see Chris, he has the skin complexion of a god.
Apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month Perform Well program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to know more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast.
I know, right? This is like a filter on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Not that I would know how to use Snapchat, but yeah.
He's not some wrinkly old man that you probably imagining he is. He's
No. It's you know, these are not. They're wrinkled from stress and.
Mate, I bet. Sure. Do you know what? I there's this thing when we have a podcast I always like to ask, because one time a few years ago I had a business coach for personal training. And he was saying that your business is a direct reflection of yourself. If you're not looking after yourself, your business will also start to crumble. How true do you think that is, and how true does that relate to your own experience?
Well, that's a good question. I would say I'm a much more stable business leader now, is the truth, and that comes with experience. My business partner in Figurati, I've known for 15 years, he owns like the late night club in the town, and everyone knows him. As soon as I say I own Figurati, they say, "Oh, you must be Rich Gilbert," and I'm like, "Yeah, good, thanks for that." Great. He says to me, like 10 years ago, I look 10 years older than I do now, and that's the journey I've been on, because I was overweight, and it was. I think men age well, if I'm being honest. I think but I also think, as you going back to the Richard Branson thing, I think as you have. I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was talking about a new diet he was on, and the chickens that he was buying were like £20 a chicken, and you sort of think, and going back to like the truth actually is, it's hard for people who are already, eating healthy is actually relatively hard. If there's a huge proportion of society who we don't ever, or I'm fortunate enough that I don't ever understand their challenges. Does that make sense? And what they face, and but. To answer your question, is my business a reflection of? I think so. I think it's a fairly stable business. I used to be involved with the police as well, which I don't say very often because people either love it or hate me. But we do the mortgages for 23 police forces across the UK. I'm a big fan of what they do. And I once met a dog handler, and he said to me, and it's very true of business of what he taught me here. He said raising children is very similar to raising dogs, in that you have a very firm line, of what's acceptable, and when they're on the right side of the line, you always praise them, and where on the wrong side of the line, you always, discipline them essentially. And that is because, and you can look at children where the parents will sometimes tell them off for something, sometimes not, sometimes they don't understand the boundaries, they don't know where they stand. And I'm lucky enough, I've got a 12-year-old son, or just about to be 12-year-old son, who is very well behaved and very hardworking, and but that is very similar of running teams. In that, and Zappie are probably a really good example of that. In that, you should always praise team members for their successes. And so every day I get across all of the businesses, one of my assistants put in the reviews from the previous days, put in all the sales figures, put in the metrics across calls, and I will make sure that I spend a bit of time every morning messaging people, saying well done, thanking them for their hard work, because that's what will motivate them. That's what what motivates me is not money. It's about people saying great things about our businesses and us achieving great things and making a difference. And that's the same for employees that you have. They're working hard, they're getting paid, and they're maybe getting commission and stuff. But actually, just knowing that you're doing a good job sometimes is worth more than any of that. And on the flip side, being a consistent manager when people aren't doing well, and it's my job for the people that I directly manage to ensure if they're not doing well, I put it as a reflection of my work, because actually I should be able to support them. I recruit the senior managers myself, so I should be recruiting the right people. I'm experienced enough. I should be training them, leading them, setting the expectations. And so when you do occasionally get someone who's not right for the business, and they're not a fit and it doesn't go well, I rarely ever have to sack anyone, because I can manage them to a place where they know it's not working, I know it's not working, I have good intent, and they'll normally sort of say, I think this one's not for me. And so
Yeah, so that I guess that my business is relatively stable now, but that comes with time as well. The mortgage business is, what, probably 14 years old. It's a very stable. But financial advisors, generally speaking, are very stable people. If I look at some of the pubs that I owned, I had some amazing chefs, but chefs are mental. Okay, so I don't know. We're talking about well-being. They will. I have heard of chefs and seen chefs who will, on a Monday night, just do a load of drugs, drink 4 bottles of wine, and then wonder why they feel like they're in a bad mood on Tuesday morning.
Mm,
And shouting and screaming at people. So, I definitely, I think most of our business is very stable, and that comes from having stable leadership as well.
I was going to say, Chris, right, go back to what you were just saying. There's a guy called Casey Baldwin in Southampton. I don't know if you know him. He owned a couple of Subways, and he told me organizing people was like herding cats.
Yeah.
That's what he told me.
I think, and this is a generalization that's not fair of everyone, but business is the biggest challenge normally people. But again, you have to look at yourself as a business leader sometimes on that, because if we think about, I don't know, recruitment, if I tell you it's really hard to recruit X type of people, actually, as a business leader, you need to always be recruiting then, have a strategy to recruit good people, good talent. Because actually, if you come to the market and I say, I need I don't know, I'm going to make it up, a chef. I need a head chef and I need them tomorrow. Well, you're not going to you might get the best quality talent. You might be super lucky, but actually you might also have to take the best option at the time. So it's about, most challenges in business, are just through to poor strategy and leadership. And, I'm not sat here saying that I get everything perfect. I probably get more wrong than I get right, is the truth. And I could practice what I preach in some of this. But, I definitely, if I'm sat there thinking, oh my God, this didn't go right, or two of my top performers left, and that hasn't happened, but say two of my top performers did leave, instead of being like, oh, they're unloyal and they're this and they're that, and actually what I've got to say is, what didn't I get right there? And ask them as well. I regularly, if I ever, in the financial services businesses, we have a very low turnover now because actually we treat people well. We give them more opportunities than they need. They can earn good money. They get treated like adults. There's flexibility. So, but if someone does leave, I'll say to them, what, just so I know, a bit of feedback, hit me straight between the eyes. What could I have done differently next time to retain someone like you who's that good?
I think that's a really good point. Really, really good point. Because we do it with clients as well. And it was when you were talking about the hiring, I see not all clients in this manner, but when you take on a client, you are hiring someone to work with them to then produce a result at the end of the day. So you can see it like staffing. And similarly, I don't take on people, no matter if I'm in a financial awful position, I don't take on people I don't think I can coach, because it's a detriment to my time, it's a detriment to their time. And same thing with staffing. You want to take people on that you understand you can get a result from. These people have come to work with you, they align with what you need to do. And it is really good to just kind of scope things out with them, learn enough about them that you can then develop that strategy to then push forward with them.
Yeah. Well, I guess in your job, it's understanding what the pain points are, what the issues, what they're trying to achieve, and if you go, okay, well, give me a X amount of money, get on the gym equipment, and they fall on the face the first week, you might have got a bit of quick cash, but actually your long-term strategy, your income, whereas if that, I've got a wedding in 12 months time and I want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger for my wedding, then my motivations, what I'm trying to achieve,
So is that point. That's your best bet.
Yeah. It's then how to, and actually, as a in that case, you could then be giving me trying to get me to visualize what I look like, how I do it, why I'm doing. Imagine yourself stood at that wedding, Chris. Imagine yourself stood there. Close your eyes, think about it. That's what I'd be doing, and suddenly I understand. So, it is about, and it's the same when you get it wrong with customers. We occasionally get it wrong with customers. The employees that we have are human. We're human. Things sometimes happen outside of our control, but you can never not turn around a bad situation, generally speaking, and I will, likewise, I spoke about the reviews that go into the groups, and then I go, well done, into the management teams every day, all the negative reviews, if there are any, go in there as well. and I will make the managers or the directors follow up with the customers. What went wrong? How do we solve this? How do we rectify it? Because actually, your marketing strategy, Dan, I come and give you 500 quid, say £1,000, okay, to coach me. I do a couple of weeks and I end up coming out looking like worse than when I went in. And I go and tell all my mates down the pub, I use this guy down full of a load of rubbish, took my money, my wife still left me because I, blah, 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 all this crap. And that's your future marketing strategy, where if you get someone and they look good and everyone's like, oh my God. And I know this, I've gone from being, 20 odd stone to being 14 stone. I know it. People go, bloody hell, how did you do that? And so, it's a great marketing strategy moving forward.
Sometimes, Chris, you can't help everyone.
No, you can't.
And
that's it. I can't work out if you're talking about me there for a second, Nick.
No. Don't worry about it. 11 years as a PT, and I worked out that the best thing I could have done as a coach was to pick who I work with. And now I work with people. Yeah. And now I work with people. They always get results.
Yeah. And the reality is, you probably could help everyone, but they're not in the right place to be helped yet. Is the truth. From your capabilities, you could help everyone, but people need to be at that right point. And you can't, we talked about the journey that I've been on, you guys have been on. Actually, people will have said to me when I was a stockbroker drinking like 10 pints of beer and a curry and staying out till like 3 a.m. in London thinking I was some legend, they will have said, maybe you should have take it a bit easier. At that point, I could have taken that advice. I probably didn't. I probably thought, I was like, nah, don't worry about that. But you have to be in the right place and mindset to be able to make those decisions and make those things happen, really.
Right, well, beautiful having you on, man. And before we wrap up, and Dan does his little wrap-up routine, we always like to ask, what advice would you give someone in your position that's building the businesses, they're not looking after their health so much, what would you give them that would help them find that inner wellness?
Well, I would give two bits of advice. Stop making excuses would be the first thing. And the second thing off the back of that would be just do something. You don't have to. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, we want to conquer the world and do everything all at once, and that is not possible. But it's better to do something. I guess as a final story, my uncle used to be sales director for an encyclopedia business in Holland in the late 70s. Okay, and he ran a team of salespeople, and he used to say, and they sold encyclopedias door to door, and he would say the hardest door for the salespeople was always their own front door, and that's the same with this fitness journey. It's about getting up, doing it, and just doing something for sure.
It is, and honestly, there's so many people we have conversations with where it's just taking baby steps. You don't have to do 10k steps, do 5k steps. You don't have to do a long cycle, do like a short one down the road. It's simple stuff like that. And Chris, honestly, we've really appreciated you come on. You spoke so well. We've got so much valuable information to give the people that watch this podcast. It's been an absolute treat for us. We're just going to wrap up now. So Chris, obviously, we plug our guests as well. We're trying to expand our network with this. We want to get loads of people in eventually later down the line to help each other. So Chris, where can people find you and where should we direct our traffic to?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Schutrups, SCHUTRUPS. I'm on Instagram. Our business is The Mortgage Hut, Figurati, if you like Italian food in Southampton. So it'd be great to connect with everyone.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and we appreciate everyone watching this podcast as well. Make sure you're listening if you're on Spotify, because we want you guys to give us a little 5 stars and a follow over on Spotify. We want to try get that followership up because it really helps push the podcast out to help more people. The whole goal of this podcast is to help as many people as humanly possible. So if you can subscribe, like, give us 5 stars. We appreciate all the help you guys have been giving us. We're nearly 100 subs on YouTube, which is absolutely exceptional for a podcast. So we're looking forward to the future, and we obviously have appreciated Chris coming on. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you guys later.